Nalia was 28, beautiful in a quiet, steady way that made people pause when she walked by. She carried herself like someone who had been tested and still chose grace. At 7 months pregnant, her belly curved proudly beneath the soft beige gown she wore that evening, her smile gentle but never knave. Tomorrow, she was supposed to marry Tobin. He was everything she thought she wanted: charming, articulate, successful. He knew how to hold her hand when she was afraid of giving birth and whispered words like, "You're my whole world." The house was filled with the joyful chaos of pre-wedding energy: aunties and colorful headscarves, fried plantains in the backyard. Cousins ran up and down the halls. Someone yelled from the kitchen asking who left the baby wipes in the freezer. Nalia sat on the edge of her childhood bed, softly rubbing her stomach in circles. Her veil hung neatly on the door, waiting. Then Charis entered the room without knocking, chewing gum as always, her energy too loud for the quiet peace Nalia was trying to hold. "You're just going to sit here all night?" Charis asked, dropping onto the bed beside her. "Not even going to do something special for your groom?" Nalia gave a tired smile. "Like what?" "You bought him that gold wristwatch, right? Why don't you deliver it yourself? He's at Palmside Hotel tonight. You could sneak in, leave a sweet note. Trust me, it'll blow his mind." Nalia shook her head. "I've been on my feet all day. My legs hurt." Charis leaned closer, dropping her voice like a devil on the shoulder. "Exactly. That's why it'll mean more. Do it for love." Nalia hesitated. "Wouldn't it be weird showing up unannounced?" "It's your man," Charis said, standing. "Your wedding is tomorrow. You're carrying his baby. If anyone should be knocking on his hotel room tonight, it's you." Nalia looked at her cousin, then slowly stood. "All right, but I'm not staying long." Charis grinned. "Good girl." The hotel wasn't far. Just past the fuel station and across from a sleek glass bank building. Nalia stepped out of the Uber, clutching a small paper bag with the wristwatch and a handwritten note folded neatly inside. At the reception desk, she smiled gently. "Good evening. I'm looking for Mr. Tobin. He checked in earlier today." The receptionist typed, then looked up with a polite smile. "Yes, he did check in, but he's not alone. His instructions say no disturbances." Nalia blinked. "Not alone?" "Yes, he arrived with a woman." Her throat tightened. She forced a smile. "Thank you." She stepped aside, her hands trembling. Maybe it was his sister. Maybe someone from the wedding team. Maybe... But her heart whispered something darker. She pressed the elevator button and stepped in, the air suddenly colder. On the 7th floor, she walked slowly, red carpet muffling her steps. Room 712. From behind the door came laughter. Then, a sound she didn't want to hear moaning. Her hand covered her mouth before a cry could escape. She leaned closer. Tobin's voice came through clear, laughing. "Nalia's too emotional these days, always talking about our future. I'm only marrying her because of the baby. If she weren't pregnant, I'd be out." A woman giggled. "You're terrible." "She thinks it's love," he said, "but she's nothing without that baby. Once the wedding's done, I'll control everything." More kissing, more moaning. Nalia's lips trembled. Her eyes filled but didn't spill. She pulled out her phone, hit record, and stood there like a ghost, gathering proof. 6 minutes of betrayal. When it ended, she turned away slowly, still recording the silent hallway as she moved. Her hand cradled her belly again, not with joy, but with fierce protection. She asked the driver to stop at a pharmacy, bought water, tissues, a memory card, copied the recording, emailed herself a backup. Then she sat in silence for 5 whole minutes before whispering to herself, "I am not the fool you think I am, Tobin. Tomorrow I'll show you." She didn't sleep that night, just stared at the wall. Her phone replayed the recording over and over. His voice, the lies, the moans. Her hands rested on her belly and she whispered into the dark, "I'll protect you. No one will use you to hurt me again." By 5:12 a.m., she stood up, mind clear. In the compound, aunties peeled yams, decorators wrestled with satin ribbons, and gospel music echoed from a small speaker. Nalia moved like a shadow, calm, unshakable. She called her godfather, Uncle Keenan. "Please," she said, "I need you to pull your investment from Tobin's business. Don't ask. Just do it." "Are you safe?" he asked. "I am now." He exhaled. "Then it's done. I'm proud of you." Her next call was to Barrister Fonde. "Cancel the marriage license immediately." "But the wedding is today." "Cancel it. I'll pay anything. Just make sure it's invalid." "Is this about Tobin? Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure." She ended the call, sent a formal message to the registry, then sat in silence. At 8 o'clock a.m., Charis entered her room holding 2 plates of waki. "Morning, bride-to-be," she sang. "You didn't eat dinner, so I brought food." Nalia stared at her. Charis was smiling too much. Her eyes darted, avoiding Nalia's gaze. "Thanks," Nalia said, taking the plate, but not touching it. "You okay? You look tired." "I couldn't sleep." "Just nerves. Big day and all." "Yes, big day." Charis touched one of the bangles on the table and slipped it on. "You'll look like a queen in that dress." "I hope so." Nalia stood. "Thanks for the food. I need to rest." Charis nodded too quickly. "Sure. Call me if you need anything." As soon as she left, Nalia locked the door, walked to the mirror, and looked at herself. Touched her hair, her face, her belly. "Tomorrow," she whispered, "they'll see who you played with." Later that afternoon, Tobin called. "Baby," he said, smooth as always. "You didn't pick up. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "You sound serious." "Just tired." "Once we're married, you'll rest plenty. I'll spoil you silly." "I believe you," she said flatly. "Photographer's ready. The drone's coming at 11. First dance after the vows." "Okay." "We're good, right?" "Perfect," he chuckled. "That's my girl." She hung up, wrote down a list of names, people she wanted to witness what was coming. That evening, her father walked into her room with a small Bible. "My daughter," he said gently, "let me pray with you." She took his hands. He prayed, asking for a marriage filled with peace and loyalty. Nalia's hands trembled slightly, but she whispered, "Amen." In her heart, though, she prayed something else. Let the truth be louder than his lies. The next morning, the sun rose quietly. Birds chirped. Flowers bloomed. The world thought it would be a wedding day. But Nalia sat in her chair calmly as the makeup artist dusted her face. "You're so calm," the woman said. "Most brides are nervous." Nalia smiled faintly. "I'm ready." Her dress lay on the bed. The same one Charis had helped her choose. Her phone buzzed. A message from the lawyer. "License canceled. Officially withdrawn. No valid marriage can happen today. Good luck." Nalia smiled. Downstairs, Tobin was already posing in his wine-colored suit. Charis stood beside him in gold, laughing, stealing glances. Nalia watched them through the window. She wasn't angry. She was ready. She slid the memory card into a Bluetooth device, then tucked it into her bouquet. All she needed was 30 seconds with the mic. As the bridal car pulled in, guests cheered. Cameras rolled. Children screamed. Phones rose like flowers blooming. Nalia didn't wave, didn't blink. Her hands wrapped tightly around the bouquet, hiding the truth. Her father turned to her. "Are you ready?" Nalia looked him in the eyes. "Yes, Daddy, I'm ready." When she stepped out, the air shifted. Every head turned. Guests gasped. "She looks like a queen." She walked slowly, each step like thunder and silk. Tobin beamed. "She came," he whispered to his best man. "I thought she'd change her mind." At the altar, Pastor Ben smiled. "Today is a day of love and unity," he began. Nalia's heart beat loud in her chest. Then Tobin read his vows, dripping in lies and empty promises. The crowd clapped. Charis grinned from the front row, filming it all. Then the pastor turned to Nalia. "Your vows, bride." She didn't speak. Just reached into her bouquet, pressed a button. The sound system crackled. Then came Tobin's voice. "I'm only marrying her because of the baby." The church froze. Gasps, murmurs. Tobin reached for the mic, but Pastor Ben held him back. "Let it finish," Nalia said calmly. When it ended, she took the mic. "This was recorded last night at Palmside Hotel, room 712. While I prayed for our future, my groom laughed with another woman." She turned to Charis. "And in case you're wondering who she is, look no further." She pointed. "Meet my cousin, my bridesmaid, my groom's secret." The church erupted. Screams, phones, tears. And Nalia, standing calm in her gown, removed her engagement ring and dropped it on the floor. "I will not cry today," she said. "I will walk, and I will raise this child in peace." Then she turned to the choir. "Sing, not for love, for freedom." And she walked, down the aisle, out the door, into the sun, a bride no more, but a queen rising. Outside the church, the heat of a craw wrapped around Nalia like a soft but certain hand. She stood at the edge of the courtyard, her dress brushing the ground, her bouquet now limp by her side. But her back was straight, her face unreadable. Behind her, the church had dissolved into chaos. People shouted, cried, recorded. Some were still trying to understand what had just happened. A few dared to approach Nalia, but most stood back in awe. A woman in her 60s, someone from her father's prayer group, touched her arm gently. "Nalia, my daughter, are you okay?" Nalia looked at her with eyes that no longer belonged to a bride. "I will be," she said. That was enough. Someone else shouted, "What happened? Is the wedding canceled?" Another voice answered before Nalia could. "Canceled? She exposed him. The groom was sleeping with her own cousin." Gasps echoed across the compound. Guests who hadn't even entered the church yet were now reversing out of parking spots, whispering frantically into their phones. Inside, the music had stopped. The decorations looked too bright, too hopeful, like confetti after a funeral. Tobin was still at the altar, motionless, as if struck. His mother, Mrs. Mardu, stormed toward him. "What is this nonsense? Is it true? Tell me it's a lie." He blinked at her. "Mommy, I don't know what she's talking about." She slapped his shoulder. "You don't know? We all heard the recording, your voice, your wicked laugh. Have you lost your mind?" Tobin stuttered. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought I could fix it before the wedding." "Fix it?" she shouted. You disgraced our family. A pregnant bride and your cousin-in-law? What were you thinking?" Pastor Ben sat down slowly, still holding the Bible, eyes glazed. In 20 years of weddings, he had never seen a bride burn down a ceremony with such silence, such precision. One of the church elders approached him quietly. "Pastor, what do we do?" Pastor Ben looked up. "We pray." At the same time, Charis tried to slip out of the side door. Her heels clicked too loudly. Her dress snagged on the chair. Her face had lost all color. Just as she reached the edge of the hallway, two women blocked her. "Where do you think you're going?" one asked coldly. "After what you did? You think you can just walk out like nothing happened?" Charis whispered. "Please let me go." "Let you go?" The other woman laughed bitterly. "You slept with your cousin's fiancé the night before her wedding." Charis's eyes filled with tears. "It was a mistake." "A mistake that lasted all night in room 712? Charis tried to push past them, but the crowd around her had thickened. Phones were out. Some shouted. Others just stared. She knew she couldn't escape. Meanwhile, Nalia stood at the entrance of the church, her father by her side. He touched her shoulder. "Let's go home, my daughter." Nalia's eyes didn't blink. "Not yet," she said softly. "There's one more thing." "But what else is left?" he asked. "You've said it all." "No," she replied, "I haven't." She turned and walked back toward the church. The crowd parted like water. Even those who didn't know what had happened moved aside instinctively. Her gown trailed behind her like a flag in war. She reached the altar again. Tobin saw her and stepped forward. "Nalia, please, I know I was wrong. Don't leave like this. We can fix it." She kept walking until she stood before Pastor Ben. "Sir, may I speak one last time?" He nodded and handed her the microphone again. Nalia turned to the guests. "I want to say something not just for me, but for every woman who has ever been lied to. For every woman who carried a man's child while he carried secrets. For every woman who believed in love and was paid in betrayal." She turned to Tobin. "I gave you everything. My heart, my time, my body, and now my child. I defended you when others warned me, and you laughed behind my back with another woman." She looked at the room. "But I will not cry. Not here, not today. Today I choose myself." Her voice did not tremble. Her hands did not shake. She turned to Charis, who had been dragged back into the hall, her mascara now a river down her face. "Blood should protect, not betray," Nalia said. "You weren't just my cousin. You were my sister, my friend. You knew everything, and still you did this." Charis covered her face and sank into the pew. Nalia turned back to the pastor. "This wedding cannot continue." Pastor Ben nodded slowly. "It is your right." Nalia inhaled deeply, then rested her hand on her belly and looked straight into the camera lens of a guest who had been recording from the start. "I may walk out of here alone," she said, "but I walk out whole, not broken, not ashamed. I am still a bride, just not to a liar." She handed the mic back and turned. The choir stood as if pulled by an unseen force and began to sing. The guests rose to their feet, some clapping, some crying. A ripple of sound, of solidarity moved through the church. Nalia walked down the aisle again, but this time not toward vows, but toward freedom. Outside, the media had arrived. A young reporter ran up, breathless. "Miss Nalia, are you still marrying Mr. Tobin?" Nalia looked at the camera and said clearly, "I came here in a wedding dress, but I leave in my power." She entered the car. Her father followed, closed the door, and nodded at the driver. As the car pulled away, a trail of whispers and camera flashes followed them. Behind them, the flowers wilted in the sun. The groom stood frozen. The church smelled of shame. Inside the reception hall that had been decorated for celebration, no one knew what to do. Someone unplugged the speakers. Someone else began folding the chairs. Mrs. Mardu dragged her son into a corner. "You ruined everything. Even your secretary called this morning. She said the media is already reporting your scandal. You think your investors won't hear? You think your clients won't leave?" Tobin rubbed his face with both hands. "Mom, I didn't mean for this to happen." "But it happened," she screamed. "Now deal with it." Back at Nalia's home, the living room filled with relatives. Some looked at her with pity, others with pride. Her father stood up. "My daughter faced what many women fear. She stood her ground. She exposed the truth, and I support her." Everyone nodded. Her mother wiped a tear. "We raised her well." An aunt leaned forward. "Nalia, what will you do now?" Nalia raised her head. "I will raise my child. I will heal. And I will never let a man like Tobin near my life again." The room erupted in applause. Meanwhile, Charis was in her family's home, her father shouting, her mother refusing to speak. "You have destroyed this family's name," her father yelled. "Sleeping with your cousin's fiance? Shame. I didn't mean—" "Shut up," he roared. "You're not welcome at any family gathering. If Nalia never forgives you, don't blame her. You deserve every consequence." Charis nodded, crying harder. Elsewhere, Tobin's lawyer called. "Your accounts are under review. Nalia's godfather has withdrawn everything. The press damage is extensive. No one wants to move forward." Tobin sat down hard. "Are you saying I should shut down?" "You need to," the lawyer said. "There's nothing left to salvage." That night, back in her room, Nalia changed out of the white gown and folded it carefully. She loosened her hair, washed her face, sat on the bed barefoot, holding her belly. "It's just you and me now," she whispered. "We're going to be okay." Her phone buzzed. It was her godfather. "Nalia," he said, "it's done. The investment is withdrawn. His accounts will freeze within 48 hours. "Thank you," she said. "You did what most women can't do," he replied. "You stood up." She ended the call, looked at the wedding invitation pinned on the wall. She pulled it down, tore it in half, and dropped it in the trash. Then she lay down, wrapped her arms around herself, and finally slept. Not from exhaustion, but from peace. The morning sunlight filtered through the curtains like soft silk as Nalia slowly opened her eyes. For a moment, she didn't know what day it was. The room was quiet. No decorators shouting about floral arches, no aunties arguing about seed and charts, no gospel music booming from the backyard, just stillness. She sat up and instinctively rubbed her stomach. Her baby kicked once, a gentle flutter, like a secret handshake between them. The gown from the day before still hung on the back of the door, no longer glowing. Her bouquet had already been taken apart and thrown in the trash. Her veil lay in a crumpled pile on the chair. She had walked out of her own wedding, and today the world would know. Her phone buzzed beside her. 10 missed calls from Tobin. 14 from Charis. Messages poured in faster than she could count. She opened Instagram. Her name was trending. Hashtag Nalia the Brave. Room 712. The altar bombshell. Someone had posted the video of her speech at the church. Over 200,000 views. Comments flooded in, most of them filled with awe and gratitude. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But what she did feel, deep and unmistakable, was peace. In a hotel across town, Tobin sat on the edge of a hotel bed with his head in his hands. His eyes were bloodshot, swollen from a night without sleep. His phone buzzed again. Another call from his lawyer. He ignored it. Then came a text. Your investor has officially withdrawn all funds. Your company's accounts are frozen. We need to meet now. Tobin groaned, a sound so hollow it echoed inside his chest. How did everything fall apart in one day? His business was unraveling. His wedding had imploded. His reputation had turned to ash. And Charis had stopped answering his calls. He stood up and began pacing, fists clenched. Later that afternoon, he finally called Nalia. This time, she answered. Hello, she said, her voice calm. Nalia, he began, his tone tired, broken. Please, can we talk? There's nothing to talk about. I know I hurt you. I destroyed everything. But I swear, I never meant for it to happen like this. No, she replied, you didn't mean for it to come out. You planned to lie. You planned to use me. I didn't plan anything. I was drunk. I was confused. I was stressed. Save it, she said. I carried your child. I trusted you with my life. And you gave your body to my cousin. You mocked me. Okay, he said, voice cracking. I wasn't ready for marriage. I didn't know how to say it. I thought if we just got through the wedding, I'd grow into it. You should have told me, not betrayed me. Silence followed. Then she said, You're only sorry because people saw it. Are you done? He asked quietly. Yes, she said. I'm done. She ended the call. Back at Nalia's house, the living room was full. Aunties, uncles, cousins, they had all seen the video. Some looked at her with pity, others with admiration. Her father stood up and cleared his throat. My daughter has gone through what many women would not survive. She stood her ground. She revealed the truth, and I support her fully. Heads nodded. Her mother wiped a tear from her eye. We raised her well. An aunt leaned forward. Nalia, what do you plan to do now? Nalia looked up. I plan to raise my child. I plan to heal. I plan to never let a man like Tobin near my life again. They clapped. At the same time, Charis sat alone in her parents' home, her face blotchy from crying. Her father was still shouting. Her mother hadn't spoken a single word. You have shamed this family, her father thundered. You slept with your cousin's fiancé the night before her wedding. I didn't mean to. Shut up, he yelled. You are banned from every family gathering. You brought disgrace to us all. If Nalia never forgives you, that's your burden. Charis nodded, tears streaming freely. She had nowhere to go, nowhere to run. Tobin's day wasn't going any better. His lawyer called again, this time forcing him to answer. Tobin, your accounts are frozen. Your main investor pulled out. We can't pay staff. We can't cover operational costs. You need to shut things down. Tobin sat in his chair, numb. This can't be happening. It is. His lawyer hung up. More than 5 major clients had already canceled contracts. Suppliers refused to deliver goods. Emails came in, one after another, all with the same message. We're withdrawing. That night, Nalia sat on her bed, barefoot, her belly round and firm beneath her nightdress. Her father brought her a cup of ginger tea. "I never told you this," he said, "but when your mother and I first married, she found out I was talking to another woman." Nalia raised an eyebrow. "What?" "She didn't walk away, but she should have. I changed, but I wish she'd made me sweat first." Nalia laughed faintly. "So you're saying I did the right thing?" "You did what most women are afraid to do," he replied. "You ended the pain before it grew roots." Nalia looked down. "Sometimes I still feel like crying." "Then cry," he said. "But cry because you're free, not because you lost anything, because you didn't lose a man. He lost you." That night, she cried, but only once. One tear for the woman she had been. The next day, her inbox overflowed. Messages from strangers, some from journalists, some from churches asking her to share testimony. One message stood out. It was from a woman named Nosi. "Hi, Nalia," it read. "I watched your video. My husband has been cheating on me for years. I stayed for the kids, but yesterday, when I saw you walk out of that church, I packed my things and left. Thank you for reminding me that I matter." Nalia read it twice, then smiled. Maybe that's why it happened. That afternoon, she went to her prenatal checkup. Her doctor beamed. "Your baby is healthy, strong heartbeat. Everything looks perfect." Nalia smiled. "So am I." On her way out, a woman in the hallway stopped her. "Are you Nalia?" "Yes," she replied. The woman hugged her tightly. "Thank you. You don't know me, but I know what you did. I'm proud of you." At home, Nalia began writing. Not just blogs, letters, stories. She created a page called The Bride Who Walked. Her first post read, "I wore a white gown, but I didn't marry shame. I walked. And that was the best decision of my life." The post went viral. More women began sharing their stories. Some from Nigeria, some from Kenya, some from her own neighborhood. She didn't respond to every message, but she read them all. One, from a 17-year-old girl named Peace, read, "My uncle has been abusing me. I was afraid to speak. But after reading your story, I told my aunt. She took me away. Thank you." Nalia wiped her eyes. Her pain was turning into purpose. One night, her best friend Udu called her on video. "So you're really not going to date again?" she teased. Nalia laughed. "I didn't say that. I'm just not looking." "Well, the way men are DMing me about you, they're definitely looking." "Let them look. I'm focusing on me. And this baby. Girl, you're glowing. It's the peace." That night, before bed, Nalia whispered to her unborn child, "You were never a mistake. You're the best thing that came from the worst moment. I will protect you, and I will show you what strength looks like." The room was quiet. The fan turned slowly, and for the first time in weeks, Nalia slept deeply. No nightmares, no tears, only rest. The billboard outside what used to be Tobin's office had fallen halfway. The lights were off, the door locked. Inside, dust covered the desk. Someone had already removed the couch. The secretary's table was gone. Tobin stood in the empty reception area, a brown envelope under his arm. His beard was rough, his shirt wrinkled, his shoes dusty. He opened the door to his old office, sat down, dropped the envelope on the desk. Everything was gone. Investors, staff, clients, even his laptop had been repossessed. He put his head in his hands. He didn't move for a long time. The rain came down in sheets the night Nalia went into labor. Thunder rolled softly in the distance as she stood in her bedroom folding tiny towels, her belly heavy and low, her hands slow but steady. The pain struck without warning, sharp and deep, pulling her forward as she gripped the back of the chair and closed her eyes. "Mama," she called out. Her mother rushed in, eyes wide. "It's time," Nalia whispered, breathless. Her father grabbed the hospital bag and his car keys, already at the door. Let's go," he said, trying to sound calm, but his hands trembled. The drive to the hospital was a blur of traffic lights, windshield wipers, and whispered encouragements. Her father held her hand the entire way. "You're strong. Just breathe. You've come too far to stop now." At the hospital gate, the nurses were waiting. "She's the one," one of them whispered to the other. "The bride who walked." Nalia didn't hear them. Her world had narrowed to the pain and the rhythm of her breath. The nurses wheeled her into the delivery room, where fluorescent lights shone above her like a stage. A young midwife named Bai held her hand and said, "You're doing amazing, madam. Just a little more." Hours passed like waves crashing on a shore. Nalia pushed, screamed once, then again, until a loud cry pierced the room like a sunrise breaking through the dark. "It's a girl," the nurse announced joyfully. Nalia's head dropped back against the pillow. Sweat clung to her face. Her eyes closed. Tears spilled down her cheeks. When they placed the baby in her arms, Nalia didn't speak. She only stared at the tiny face, the soft skin, the life she had created and protected with every breath. In that moment, nothing else mattered. Not the ruined wedding, not Tobin, not the betrayal. Only this child, Amarachi, God's grace. Word spread quickly. Nalia has given birth was whispered in marketplaces and shared in WhatsApp groups. Friends sent messages. Strangers sent prayers. Even Pastor Ben sent a handwritten letter. You may not have stood before the altar, but you have stepped into something far greater. May God bless you and your daughter. Nalia read it aloud and smiled. A week later, she sat beneath the mango tree in her family's compound, cradling Amarachi as her father approached with a folded newspaper in his hand. "Look," he said proudly. "Front page." Nalia took the paper and read the headline. "From Broken Bride to Bold Mother, the story of Nalia and baby Amarachi." She laughed gently. "They'll get tired of talking eventually." Her father smiled. "Not when they're watching a queen rise." Each day after that, Nalia's home filled with laughter and the smell of baby powder. Her mother rubbed her back each evening. Her father cooked pepper soup on Sundays and folded diapers with serious focus. Udu visited often, arms full of baby gifts. "I know you said no presents," she teased, "but how can I help myself? I mean, look at her cheeks." "You'll spoil her before she can even crawl," Nalia laughed. One afternoon, as they sat sipping hibiscus tea, Udu leaned forward. "Have you decided what to name her?" Nalia nodded. "Amarachi," she said. Udu blinked. "God's grace?" "Because that's what she is," Nalia said. The night Amarachi was born, the storm had passed by dawn. The sun returned as if nothing had happened. But inside Nalia's world, everything had changed. Days later, her blog reached 50,000 followers. Women shared their stories under the tag #TheBrideWhoWalked. Messages poured in. One, from a woman named Ada, read, "You don't know me, but you saved me. I was in an abusive marriage. I was afraid to leave, but after watching your video, I left with my child. You gave me courage." Nalia placed the phone on her chest and closed her eyes. Maybe that was why it all happened. Maybe the pain had a purpose. She began writing again. Not just blogs, but full letters, handwritten, signed, mailed one by one to women who had shared their heartbreak. Her movement was no longer just digital, it was real. One Tuesday morning, she received a call from a woman named Mrs. F.A. Noah. "I run the Grace Women's Center," the voice said. "We've been following your story. We'd like you to come speak to a group of young women. Many of them have been through betrayal, abuse, abandonment. They need someone like you." Nalia hesitated. "I'm not a speaker." "You are now," the woman said kindly. Nalia agreed. That Saturday, she stood in a modest hall with plastic chairs and standing fans. About 25 women were seated. Some were young, others middle-aged. A few had infants on their laps. Nalia wore a simple blue gown. Her belly had shrunk, but the light in her eyes had grown. She held the microphone, looked at the room, and said softly, "I'm not here because I'm perfect. I'm here because I broke, and then I stood again." The women leaned in. "I believed love was enough. I believed loyalty was enough. But I forgot to believe in myself." A few nodded. "I wore the dress. I walked the aisle, but I walked out, because peace is better than a pretty lie. I'm not ashamed, I'm proud, because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is say no." When she finished, the women clapped. Some stood, others cried. One whispered, "You just reminded me that I'm still alive." That day, Nalia didn't just speak. She healed a part of herself she hadn't known was still hurting. Later that evening, her father watched a video of the event on his phone. "My daughter is becoming a public figure," he said. His friend, Miss Emma, nodded beside him. "She deserves it. She did what no one expected. She exposed that boy and walked with dignity." "True," her father said, "but I hope the spotlight doesn't burn her out." "Has Tobin come again?" "No," he said, "and if he does, I'll be waiting at the gate myself." They both laughed. Somewhere across town, Tobin sat in a dim room flipping through unpaid bills. His assistant had quit. His lawyer had stopped replying. Most of his staff had walked out. He had gone from founder to ghost in less than a month. A knock came at the door. "Come in," he muttered. A young man entered. "Sir, the leasing company took the delivery van this morning." "Which van?" "The Toyota." Tobin nodded slowly. "Okay." The man hesitated. "Can I be honest?" Tobin looked up. The man continued. "You ruined everything. We were building something good. Then you let your ego destroy it." Tobin didn't respond. The man left. Tobin sat alone. The silence around him sounded like shame. Elsewhere, Charis scrolled through her phone in a dark room. Comments flooded every post. "Home wrecker," "disgrace," "you deserve everything coming." She had turned off the comment section, but the messages still came. Her family had cut her off. Her workplace had suspended her. Her friends had disappeared. She tried calling Tobin again. No answer. She sent a text. "I know we made a mistake, but you promised me something real. Please don't leave me too." No reply. She dropped the phone and buried her face in the pillow. No one came. Meanwhile, Nalia sat with her baby on her lap, typing slowly. Her blog post read, "The vows I kept were not for a man. They were for me. I promised myself I would never choose pain when peace was an option. I will raise my daughter in truth, not silence." It became her most shared post. Soon after, she was invited to speak at a university conference. She wore a long dress with white embroidery. A Marachi was tucked against her chest, asleep in a sling. The hall was full. Students, professors, mothers, even a few fathers. Nalia stepped up, mic in hand. "My name is Nalia," she said. "I was supposed to be someone's wife, but I chose to be someone better myself." The hall clapped. I was pregnant, in love, blind. But I saw the truth in time, and I walked away. That walk changed everything. She paused. Walking away doesn't make you weak. It means you know your worth. Never be afraid to leave a place where you're not respected. Applause thundered through the room. Far away, Tobin sat in a tiny apartment, watching the speech on his phone. He paused halfway, looked out the window. He had lost more than a business. He had lost the kind of woman people write books about. And this time, no apology would ever bring her back.